Welcome to TipTea Podcast. Joining me today is the Gail to my Oprah, Miss Layla Ziadich. Hello.
Hi, honey. Now that's a really nice sentiment. Thank you.
You're welcome.
At least, honestly,
like that.
It's better than being the Stedman to your Oprah, so I appreciate that.
You know, today I honestly was going back and forth on which one I would say. I was like, okay, Stedman is her husband, but Gail is her lover. So, obviously I'm going to pick her lover. It now? Yes. Her best friend, Winky Face.
Winky.
How are we doing today?
I'm good. It's been a very busy day for me. How about you?
It was good. We had a bunch of fucking snow. I had to shovel the driveway and I really didn't like that, but she did what had to be done. And
absolutely.
We're happy for that. Have
you seen how bad Chicago is?
Well, I mean, I saw your video.
How bad the cars have been, like fully, like not like, oh, I have to dig my car out or scrape the top of it. Like cars are fully surrounded by snow, like on all four sides. On top, there's at least like 2 feet of snow, and people were digging their cars out for 2.5 hours today, I was told.
Honestly, that's when you just give up on life.
I'm like, that's when you call in.
That's when you just call in. We hear the fire sirens. But
yep, I live in Chicago. How do you know? Because you hear this shit.
You know,
a little ambiance.
I will just say, like, if that was me, I would definitely just call in. Like, why? Like, why bother?
To your point, that's exactly what my mother did today, which is so funny because she doesn't even drive. She's like, I just didn't want to bother. I'm like, oh, okay.
That's my energy, which I fully support.
I was going to say, you two radiate some of the same vibes.
I don't want to fuck with it. It's like, I am one of those old ladies that's like, oh, my joints are hurting. It's about to rain. Like, I'm not about to do anything. That's
okay. And you're somehow also radiating the same energy as my father with that. So that's great.
I'm Bosnian.
Parent. Yeah, you're hella Bosnian.
Shit. Ooh. So,
what are we talking about today, Robert?
Well, we're doing TipTea does Black HERstory Month. Do you like what I did there? Do you like?
I really do. Yes, honey. We stan the women.
I get my best ideas in the shower, and I was like, Black HERstory Month, and then I was like, history, like fuck that. Let's do herstory. Let's talk about the women, because like I've said it once and we'll say it again, but Black women really do run the world and really do save us from all the shit that is going on, which we will prove today. So we will be talking, each of us are going to share 3 women, African-American women, who have inspired us. They could either be in the past or the present. But these women we have chosen because of what they've done and what they could potentially do. And we love them. So do we want to dive right into that, or do we want to talk about, is there anything we need to talk about before we do our segment?
I mean, there's not much for me to say about the things that have been going on lately in the world, other than if no one has been paying attention to the news, because I know we've all probably stopped or let our guard down a little bit in terms of the news. Donald Trump was acquitted of his impeachment, his second impeachment. So that was super frustrating. And I don't know how you feel about it, Robert, but I just took like the deepest sigh when I saw that.
I mean, wasn't even surprised. Like there wasn't even a scenario in my brain in which Donald Trump would have been convicted of his impeachment. Like, and I guess that just speaks to how fucked up our country is. But
right, you're so desensitized from, I guess, like optimism. You're just like, you know what? I'm done feeling good about something and having hope.
Yeah,
so maybe that's what's going on.
Look, honestly, I'm like, it took everything, all my strength and optimism or lack thereof to see like Biden get elected, that like by the end of this, I'm just like, yeah, I'm not surprised. I was
let down.
Disappointed, yes. Surprised, no, not in the slightest. Yeah, and did you see like that he was raising money?
In regards to what?
Like he was using the acquittal to like raise money for like his campaign or for whatever he's gonna fucking do. So like maybe he'll run again.
Well, I'm hoping that he's been ostracized enough by his own party. I mean, even,
but he's not, because nobody fucking voted against him. Like, so right. Obviously and he's not ostracized. Obviously people are very scared of his support and like, yeah, I think
Senator Mitch McConnell was quoted as saying that, he does truly believe that Donald Trump is responsible for the incitement of the violence that took place, but he had a constitutional, I guess, like problem with how impeachment was going to move forward at that, I guess at that point of his lack of presidency, I guess, or his, like he was no longer president. He was considered a private citizen. I mean, it's quite complicated, but, he did go on record and say that, he doesn't support anything that he did in the end, and how he's just bad for the Republican Party. So I think it's going to be interesting to see what happens with the Republican Party, because I think especially that like huge riot that happened, I think that there might be some division in the party, and we might see some people moving away from that party, or there might be like a split agenda where, some people go back to the old, what they call the old GOP versus this new age GOP. So we'll see what happens. But like we need any more divisiveness.
Well, if we have to go to another country, where would you go?
Like if I could go anywhere?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Australia is experiencing their summer right now. That sounds pretty good.
Fuck Australia.
Why?
Because, girl, they've got all those spiders, all those snakes, all those creatures. They have all the poisonous shit. I'm not trying to go to somewhere where I'm going to get killed by a fucking animal. Like, I don't need to get bit or stung by they have too many exotic creatures.
You're not going to even like try for Queensland or Sydney.
No, I'll go visit. I will go visit Australia. I will not live in Australia. There's just too many poisonous things. I'm not trying to die. If I had to go live in another country, I don't know. I was thinking maybe like Norway.
Okay, why? Because they have like
Sweden, like somewhere like
so positive in terms of like what universal healthcare, education, rehabilitation programs.
Just
like they're quite advanced.
Chill, like somewhere chill.
The Nordic people,
like chill. I would thrive in a chill. Like my crazy ass, like I would thrive in just a chill area.
What's ironic about this whole thing is that you refuse to ever move up to Chicago, and yet the weather there, I would assume, is probably like parallel to how cold it gets here.
I think it gets cold. It doesn't get crazy. I don't think it gets crazy.
Okay, which country did you say?
I said Sweden and Norway. But you know what's also crazy? So I was walking outside with my friend the other day, and we were going outside, and it was when it was snowing, and I said to him, I said, I'm really fucked up because like I want to go and live in New York, and like this is fucking it's winter here right now, but it's like the fucking Arctic tundra in New York, and like honestly I'm just a glutton for punishment.
I feel that. So here we go. Winters are much colder, averaging 27 to 30 degrees Fahrenheit. Above the Arctic Circle, winter is severe with temperatures sometimes going below negative 30 degrees Celsius.
I'd be okay. If I'm living in Norway, I'm just
bullshit coming from you.
I'm living in Norway, like, you know, if that is the only thing I have to deal with is cold, I will deal with it. You know what I mean? I'm not dealing with systematic racism. I'm not.
Do we know that?
I don't think that they have
every devil's advocate. I'm very curious. I don't know.
I think every place obviously has their own issues, but I don't know. Norway's not problematic. Like, you don't see their asses on the news. Like, nothing in comparison to the United States of America. So I'm just saying, like, if the cold is the only thing I have to worry about, I can deal with it. I can fuck with it.
I feel that.
In Chicago, I'm dealing with the cold. I'm dealing with systematic racism. I'm dealing with the metro. I'm dealing with possibly getting like mugged. Like, not to say that in St. Louis, I can't get mugged either. Like, I'm dealing with that too. But if I'm going to get mugged, now I am going to carry Gorilla Glue spray in my bag.
Oh, hell no. Not this mess again.
Yes.
That poor woman.
You know, I just want to dive deep into this. What possesses somebody to say that they don't have hairspray? So the next logical step would be to grab a bottle of Gorilla Glue spray and say, you know, this will probably have a strong hold. Let's just spray it on my fucking head.
I mean, I don't know. Like, have you ever absent-mindedly like grabbed something that you didn't actually mean to grab? I don't know. Like, if the bottle is similar, which in the video it kind of looked like it was.
I don't think that I would absent-mindedly pick something that had glue in the name.
My curiosity is, why are they both in the bathroom? Like,
no, I think she bought no. I think she bought that because her hairspray was out. Like, it was.
I thought the story was she pulled it out of like underneath the sink because she ran out of hairspray. Because why would you go and buy?
I don't know.
Without even reading the label.
I thought she had bought that because she ran out, and that was the only thing that was there. See, I don't know. Regardless.
Well, I was going to say, apparently she's done a lot of fundraising on GoFundMe, and she's been doing some donating to nonprofit groups. And she also has herself an agent. So she's using her 15 minutes of fame for good, I guess.
So basically,
honestly, she went through it. She went through it, though.
You're saying we need to do something catastrophic like that?
I would never.
To get TipTea to where we need it. To where we can have an agent. Like, what can I do?
Yeah, we'll just get our followers up. Follower account up. I'm not trying to take you to the hospital for like any sort of accidents. In hopes that it'll yield viewership.
But yeah, I mean, I'm going to carry a Gorilla Glue spray now as a form of defending myself.
I love that. And I wish you the best. And please report back to any sticky situations that arise.
Literally sticky. Like, I'm going to stick their asses to the wall. Like,
like Spider-Man?
Yes.
That's my sound.
Have you seen the TikToks of the girl that has the kickboxing dummy? How they're called, like bobs. Do you know what I'm talking about?
No.
Okay. Oh, fuck. I wish you would have seen these. But there's this girl and she has these. It's like a kickboxing dummy, and she just does all this fucked up shit to this kickboxing dummy. And it is the most hysterical thing I've ever seen in my life. Like, she's punching it. She farts on it. She takes a pizza and throws it on it. Like, it is just the most hysterical thing I think I've ever seen in my life. Like, it's truly a work of art. I'm going to send it to you after this.
I was going to say, I'm going to need some links.
So, anything else we need to talk about before we...
No, honey, let's just dive right in.
Okay. So, do you want to go first or do you want me to go first?
Let's let you go first. Set the tone.
Okay. So, my first choice was the Harriet Tubman. And Harriet Tubman, a.k.a. Moses, a.k.a. Armanita Ross, is a fucking gangsta. Like, first and foremost, she's a bad motherfucker. So, Harriet was born and raised as a slave on Maryland's Eastern Shore. And that area kind of lies on a spot where it was like between slavery and freedom. So, like, for example, Harriet was a slave, but her husband, John Tubman, was a free man. So I just want to like take the second, like, can you imagine, take yourself back in the day. You're married. I'm Harriet and I'm married to John Tubman. And I'm a fucking slave and his ass is free. And like that whole dynamic, like, can you imagine being like, okay, well, you get to enjoy your day. My ass is going to go to the field. I'll see you in a bit.
I mean, I truly can't even fathom.
Okay, I'm going to see you later. Mass is going to whoop my ass tonight, but...
Okay, I have an ignorant question. So...
Okay.
So you said she was a slave and he was a free man.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So he was allowed to marry her, but was she allowed to marry him? Because back in those times, I mean, I understand that slaves were considered property. So
I don't know how that worked out. I mean, I'm guess
very curious.
Yeah, I'm sure he had to get like permission from her master or whatever. Mm-hmm. Like, it wasn't like, to answer your question, no, like he probably had to like ask to marry her. Mm-hmm. It wasn't like he just chose, like, you know, because he, at the end of the day, he's still a black man. So yeah, I think he still had to ask, but he was still free and her ass was a slave. So she was a slave until she fled to Pennsylvania. Once she fled to Pennsylvania, she became a conductor of the Underground Railroad, and she was leading enslaved people to freedom before the Civil War, all while carrying a bounty on her head. So she was going back to Maryland to get people. I think she ended up saving 70 people in total. She didn't lose anybody on her rescue missions, apparently. But yeah, she saved like 70 people from slavery. So she's a badass. Some interesting things about her. When Harriet was 12, she stepped in between a overseer and a slave getting into an altercation. The overseer was throwing a heavy weight at the slave, and Harriet went in between the two, and she got hit in the head with the weight. So as a result of that, Harriet suffered like from lifelong seizures and headaches. And this is the fucking crazy thing. So in 1898, Harriet underwent brain surgery from a surgeon in Boston. And instead of receiving anesthesia while the doctor cut open her skull and performed the surgery, she chose to bite on a bullet.
Whoa.
Something that she saw the soldiers doing when she was working with them in the Civil War. And she was like, no, I'm not going to do anesthesia. I'll just bite on a fucking bullet. Badass. Also, my favorite little fact about her was that she carried a pistol on her rescue missions in the Underground Railroad for her safety, but also to keep people who were maybe considering having second thoughts about running away from turning back. So she was like, your asses are mine. You're not going anywhere. Like, you chose this. We're going to do it. Like, you're not going nowhere. Love it.
I love it.
So yeah, that was my number one pick. What's your number one?
I mean, I don't. So to preface this, I don't want to say that my number one is like in order of importance or anything.
Oh yeah, no, they're not in importance. Okay. They're just number one.
So my goal was to research people that I had actually never heard of or knew very little about. The first person that really drew some interest to me was Shirley Chisholm, who was the first Black woman elected to U.S. Congress, which was in 1968. She was a baddie. This woman kind of grew up in Brooklyn. She was a representative from New York. She was born in the Great Depression, a child of 8, like a family of 8 kids, which is insane. Imagine that during the Great Depression. That alone is like very challenging. I can't imagine. But she ended up being, very smart, going to, good schools, getting good grades. Eventually, she studied, I think, sociology. And then somebody told her, like, oh, you have like the personality for politics, because she was a baddie and she always spoke her mind. And the issues that were important to her were things like educational opportunities for all sorts of people and social justice. So that's kind of what led her into Congress. And, being the first Black woman elected is a huge, thing to accomplish, especially during the 60s, when this is a time of high racial pressures. And imagine, like, to your point, when you were saying, imagine, living in that sort of environment that Harriet Tubman did. I mean, imagine being a first, trailblazer like this woman was, surrounded by your colleagues who are all white men. Like, it must have been very intimidating at times. I don't know how she didn't get imposter syndrome every day, but I mean, she sounded like she was pretty sure of herself and knew what she wanted. And if you ever look up interviews from her, she was just really well spoken and really confident. She remarked in words that in the end, anti-Black, anti-female, and all forms of discrimination are equivalent to the same thing, anti-humanism. And this one article that I was reading was, someone was saying, the next time you queue up Solange Knowles' album, A Seat at the Table, be reminded of Chisholm's words. If they don't give you a seat at the table, bring a folding chair. Which I really love. Yes, we love her.
I love that.
So she actually did run for president. She ran for the Democratic nomination to be, running for president. She did not win. However, she had some balls even doing that. And I think that she definitely led the way for Vice President Kamala Harris to be where she is at today. So, I mean, that's amazing. And what I really, really liked, which I'm like totally going to take this phrase, her campaign slogan was unbought, and unbossed. So she was like, you can't buy me. You can't control me. Like, this is who I am, and this is what I'm coming to do. So
I love it.
Yeah, I think she was just a bad bitch, like way before her time, and clearly like someone who wasn't afraid to, stand up for what she believed in, in the face of adversity. So I really loved learning about her. And, if I could achieve anything as small as she ever has achieved in terms of like helping people and representing people who, don't have a voice for themselves, I would be so lucky. So people like her are very special, and it's very cool to hear about her story.
I love her. She's a baddie. So when was she in Congress?
So she was in Congress in 1968. So during
68, okay.
The civil rights movement. Oh my God. I was like, it's on the tip of my tongue. So during the civil rights movement, she was like the first Black woman to like have a major role in decision making in Congress, which is
love
fucking badass. We love to see it.
So my number 2 is Dr. Shirley Jackson. Dr. Shirley Jackson was the first African American woman to receive a PhD from MIT in physics. Also, just like in general, she was the first to get a PhD from MIT. Not just in physics. It just happened to be in physics. So she is truly a bad motherfucker. In 1976, Dr. Jackson joined the Theoretical Physics Research Department at AT&T Bell Laboratories. At Bell, Dr. Jackson conducted a number of successful theoretical physics experiments and made breakthrough scientific research that enabled others to invent the fax machine, touch-tone phone, fiber optic cells, solar cells, and this is the most important, the technology behind caller ID and call waiting. So
we needed that. Thank you, ma'am.
I'm going to take a drink for her and everybody listening to this.
Cheers to her.
If you have ever ghosted somebody, avoided somebody, decided to not answer, screen calls, you need to take a drink for Shirley Jackson because she enabled you to do that. So I'm going to take a drink.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Wait, what was her name again?
Dr. Shirley Jackson.
Okay, we have 2 Shirleys on the list.
I know. When you said Shirley, I'm like, okay.
You're like,
Shirley.
Shirley. All right. So keeping on with some.
Oh, wait.
Oh, excuse me. Please.
No. Sorry.
I did not know the shine was not done. Please.
No. She's got some more. So she served as the chairman of the U.S. Nuclear Regulatory Committee under the Clinton administration in 1995, making her the first woman and the first African American to serve in this position. And under the Obama administration in 2009, Jackson was appointed to serve on his Council of Advisors on Science and Technology. So she was places, okay?
She was places, okay.
Okay, now I'm done.
All right, so what I was going to say is going on to, and this is, honestly, it was not my intention to do like, modern day, like medicine and advancements, like both going back to back, but I think it works really well. Robert, you've probably heard of Henrietta Lacks, haven't you?
Yeah.
Because you've read, all those books and obviously like in the background of work that you do. But for someone who doesn't know, and I didn't know, so essentially Henrietta Lacks was an accidental pioneer of modern day medicine. Her cells are actually like still saving lives today, even though she died in 1951. Some people say that doctors stole her cells. She was basically a 31-year-old mother of 5 and was diagnosed with cervical cancer just months before her death. These doctors at Johns Hopkins sliced pieces of her tissue from her cancerous tumor, basically without her consent, and in effect stealing them. It was another instance of decades of medical apartheid and clinical practices that discriminate against Blacks. And Robert, I know you can contribute to that because of that book that you were telling me about.
Yes. Well, when you're done talking about her, I will bring up all the fucked up medical shit that have happened to Black people.
Should. Yes.
Continue.
So this article that I was reading says Lax was not a slave, but parts of her cancerous tumor represent the first human cells ever bought and sold. Her cells, known as, among scientists, as HeLa, were unusual in that they could rapidly reproduce and stay alive long enough to undergo multiple tests. Lax cells, now worth billions of dollars, live in laboratories across the world. They play an important part in developing things like the polio vaccine, cloning, gene mapping, and in vitro fertilization. And she was never compensated for that, which is quite wild, nor did she ever give her permission. So the HeLa cell line has been used to develop drugs for treating things like herpes, leukemia, influenza, Parkinson's disease, been a huge influence in the studies of cancers. And overall, her story is an example of the problematic intersection of ethics, race, and medicine. So, Robert, if you want to add in, I think this is the perfect time to talk about how race and medicine have kind of had I would say, a troubled relationship.
Oh, yeah. I mean, if you go back into the days of slavery, I mean, the cesarean section, the C-section that people use all over the world today, when having childbirth, the doctor that developed that used Black women, his slaves, to practice that procedure on. And that was during a time when, Black people weren't getting anesthesia. So these poor women were probably not getting anesthesia. This OBGYN gynecologist doctor was also just doing abominable stuff to these women, would let other doctors and people who weren't even doctors come in and view him doing procedures on these women, just completely violating them and disrespecting them. So he's a piece of shit. Like I said, Black people weren't given anesthesia back in the day, and syphilis back in the day, doctors were studying the effects of late stage syphilis, which would happen if syphilis was untreated, and would purposefully get Black people, withhold treatment to these Black people, and would let the syphilis develop and fester just to study the effects on these people. So
that's insane. Now, do we understand or know really why they were selected specifically? Was it just an abundance of let's say these people volunteering, or it wasn't volunteering, or what?
It wasn't voluntary.
Right. Okay. So why do you do we understand why this happened? In the books that you've read, I think you have much more background.
I think it was just because, why let white people go untreated with syphilis when we have slaves that are, in their eyes, considered subhuman, less than white people. I mean, essentially, yeah, you're treating them like they're not human, that they're animals and creatures that you can experiment on. So yes, why let white people go untreated when we have Black people that are available, that we can let this disease just continue to develop and study them? I mean, it's perfect. I mean, there's no, this was a time when there were no ethics with Black people. I mean, because they were viewed as non-human, animals, property. So yes, I mean, that's perfect. I don't have to have ethics to do that. I could just do whatever the fuck I want. Like, that's perfect for science.
That's fucked.
Yeah.
That's fucked. I mean, not to take away from like what, Black people, Black women have had to go through. Just on this note, I actually was just watching, it's just kind of wild to me because I'm learning more and more about how like medicine, 30, 50 years ago to 100 years ago, how like, I guess like ethically troublesome it was. There's a documentary on HBO Max called Baby God. And it's about this one doctor who basically like was a specialist in gynecology and just like helping women become, like fertile or like who are having trouble with infertility. He opened his own clinic, and basically unbeknownst to them, he was giving his sperm to them when he was inseminating them, essentially. So what they believed to be like their children with their husbands was actually it blew my mind, was actually his children. And so like the way the documentary starts out, I mean, I'm not like doing any spoilers for everyone, but like if you find this interesting, you should watch it. But basically, of course, now with how, like there's wide availability to send, your DNA out and, find connections with family members all around the country. Like one big thing that started happening was people were finding out that they were all kind of like a bunch of people were connected, by the same family tree. And it was just like really unusual. And then imagine, like, let's say you're in your 50s, your mom is like quite older than you. Your dad has since passed away, and you have to tell your mom, like, listen, I'm actually not like the product of you and my dad. This is who I'm a product of. And some people chose to tell their parents that. It's just wild. But like, how ethically fucked is that? And this man thought he was helping people.
Yeah. Like, I mean, and then you think about today, and you think there is a wide, I posted something on TikTok saying, about myself getting vaccinated, the COVID vaccine, and how I received the COVID vaccine. And, I got like, there was Black people commenting on my, posts saying, I'm not getting the COVID vaccine. I don't trust it, blah, 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 blah. And I mean, can you blame them? I mean, can you blame a group of people that have been fucked so many different ways, like for not trusting the government and trusting like science? Like, I mean, obviously I said, I did fine with the vaccine. I still suggest everybody should get the vaccine, but I mean, I can't blame you. Like,
I find the whole like vaccine kind of thing, like really, by a vaccine kind of thing, really like interesting is I'm hearing a lot about people who have influence. For example, like I know you're not a fan of Joe Rogan, and that's totally fine. And I actually have a huge problem with this, but apparently he was like doing his show, and I don't know if it was like the same episode where he talked to Elon, but both of them have like come out and not getting the vaccine, which is so problematic to me because they have such great influence. And that to me is just like so irresponsible and so dangerous. I think it's great that you're going out there and putting yourself out there, and people are going to comment whatever they want to say.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I just said, I definitely think that you should get the vaccine. I understand where you're coming from, and I understand the mistrust, but at the end of the day, anything that you do to your body is a risk, right? But the idea is that the benefit outweighs that point whatever percent risk that something might happen. Yeah, I mean, with any vaccine, with anything that you're doing to your body, any procedure, any surgery, there's always a risk, right? Nothing's perfect. We don't live in a perfect world. But the benefit of getting that outweighs the risk, at least for me. So, I mean, at the end of the day, you just have to ask yourself, is the benefit worth the risk? And for me, the benefit definitely was outweighed the risk. So, yeah. I mean, I don't know. I don't have all the answers. I just try to educate and try to say, you know, I got the vaccine and I did fine. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm waiting to get mine. I'm in group 1B.
Oh, Missouri is so fucked.
Everywhere's fucked.
No, Missouri's literally the last state.
Really?
In terms of rollout. And yes, Kansas City and St. Louis are considered vaccine deserts.
Wow.
Yeah, it's abysmal. I mean, Missouri's a fucking disaster. But I'm not surprised. So I'm just fucking thankful I got my fucking vaccine. And yeah, and Missouri fucking sucks. Anyway, my last but not least pick for our Black women in herstory is Cori Bush. And Miss Cori Bush is a U.S. representative of Missouri. And she was born and raised in St. Louis, Missouri. U.S. Representative Cori Bush became the first Black woman and first nurse to represent her district. So, I mean, already, I love this woman because she's a nurse, and obviously I love that. So here's some interesting tidbits about her. So not only is she a U.S. representative, Miss Cori Bush is also a registered nurse, as I had previously mentioned. She's also a single mother. She's a pastor. And she is a Black Lives Matter activist who played an active role in the Ferguson protests following the killing of Michael Brown Jr. By a white police officer. Mm-hmm. Cori is a survivor of sexual assault, homelessness, and various forms of assault, and has been very candid in speaking about all of these aspects of her life. So yeah, she is a baddie. She is one of the squad members now. I fucking love her. I can't wait to see what she does. Yeah, she ran in 2016, lost, decided to run again, won, which was considered a major upset. So she's just a bad bitch, and I love her.
And we stand her, and we can't wait to see what she is able to do here moving forward, which is going to be huge. All right.
Who's your last pick?
I am really proud of this pick just simply because I've always wanted to learn more about her, and I thought this was a great opportunity, so I chose Marsha P. Johnson.
Oh, I thought you were going to pick Rosa Parks.
Well, I mean, she did what she did, but to me, this is about learning about people who I don't know a lot, about.
You know what's funny? I was going to pick her, Marsha.
Yeah. Well, I also wanted to cover a lot of, I would say, a lot of the important avenues of culture that are important to me. So we're surely doing educational opportunities and social justice is really important to me. And, understanding the welfare of women and healthcare is super important to me. So all of these have been really I feel logical things that have kind of hit home in a way. And then when I read about Marsha P. Johnson, I don't know. It's just
it's very timely.
It's timely, but it's super heavy too.
Yeah.
And her life was, somewhat of a tragedy, but also an inspiration. So for those of you who don't know, Marsha P. Johnson, she was a Black and queer icon. One of my favorite quotes that somebody explained how she chose her name. She came up with her name by taking her last name from the Howard Johnson's restaurant on 42nd Street in New York, and the P standing for pay it no mind, saying that when people asked her about her gender, which we love.
Yeah.
So she did live a pretty hard life on her own in New York. She originally, I believe, was from the South, but came to New York to live a more free life at a very young age. And then seeing the visibility of the New York queer community, she was allowed to come out of the closet and embrace her gender non-conforming lifestyle. One of the first basically drag queens to, patronize a lot of the mainly all male gay clubs in New York, especially like the Stonewall Inn, which she takes a large part in down the line when the Stonewall riots happened. But basically, she, was an icon.
Hold on, I don't mean to interrupt you, but can we just talk about how fucking Stonewall is just so whitewashed?
I mean, tell me more. I'm still learning.
No, it's just like, if we take it, for example, that Stonewall movie that they put out like a year or two ago, it's so whitewashed. Like the fact that it was like a white person was throwing the first brick at this, that started the riots and stuff. It's like, no, black, queer, trans people fucking started this shit. Like, so you need to give them their proper thanks and appreciation. And
Absolutely.
it's just another example of just how everything gets whitewashed in history.
Absolutely.
I didn't mean to interrupt you, but
no, but to your point, like, it was said that apparently, like, this is debated, but she wasn't at the first day of the Stonewall riots, but during the second day, she was like on some roof and like dropped like some really heavy bricks or something on a cop car and like shattered the windshield, which is hilarious. She was probably like, oops. And then, really, I guess stirred the pot a little bit there. But, she was unapologetically herself. And if I could paint a picture for you, like she wore flowers in her hair and dressed in like silk robes and dresses. And she was a performer and she performed with all these really iconic groups in New York at the time, like the Hot Peaches or the Angels of Light. And some people might know her from her iconic portrait that Andy Warhol shot of her for his Ladies and Gentlemen series. Which is like a multi-colored, like color blocked, really cool, like modern piece of a close-up of her face. But basically her life was dedicated to advocating for gay rights. She's, one of the prominent figures in the Stonewall Uprising, and she co-founded, I love the name of this, she co-founded the transvestite advocacy organization STAR, which I love. It's Street Transvestite Action Revolutionaries. Like, what a great name.
Yes.
And then this is crazy that I didn't know about this. Out of STAR, her and her friend formed the STAR House, which ended up being a shelter for gay and trans street kids in New York. And it was paid through basically their sex work, which is wild.
I love it.
To me. Yeah. And then one interesting fact, which I didn't know. So she actually, obviously talking about all her accomplishments, but I would be remiss to like not mention like the tragic death in her situation. So I guess like after Pride in 1992, her body was discovered floating in the Hudson River, which is crazy because obviously everyone kind of knew who she was. And
yeah,
I mean, especially during Pride, like that is just like such a huge loss for the community. And they I guess the police tried to pass it off as suicide, but I mean, everyone like kind of knew that she didn't want to kill herself and she was really, enjoying life. And so since then, her case has actually been reopened and it's been changed from suicide to undetermined. So I guess we can say that something good has come of it. I mean, they don't have any leads just yet, as far as I understand, but it's great to see that, people are investigating it more, but obviously, with everything that we've talked about in the past, learning about the trans community, even now, a lot of the people who are trans and are murdered are people of color. So
Yep.
it's really kind of just, it's scary that, from the 60s, when she was around to the late 90s, even today, these problems still exist. And I just don't know, like, how to do anything as, like, the person that I am, like, how to help in any way outside of, like, just bringing more attention to it, highlighting that this is a problem, and then giving platforms for others to speak on. So,
yeah,
I mean, if you have anything to add to that.
I think that what we can do is use this platform like the way that we've been doing and bring people, like Gabby on and have her share her story and, just familiarize ourselves with people that are different than us, because at the end of the day, when you're not exposing yourself to different people and seeing different viewpoints, you're not gonna, you're more inclined to, not understand where they're coming from. And like the only way you're going to do that is by immersing yourself in other people's stories and other people's walks of life. And I just want to, end this episode by saying, as we celebrate Black History Month, a thought that has just been in my mind a lot this month is this idea that we are at a point in just, how do I describe it? We're at a point in life where right now racism is, it's more than just saying, oh, somebody is racist because they said something that is, rude against like a person of color or, somebody making a racist statement. No, racism is more than that. It's systematic. It is ingrained in our culture, and it is going to take a lot of work to get rid of racism. And the only way that we can do that is by being aware of our own racism that we have inside of us, that every single person has inside of them. And, when somebody says something to you like, oh, what you said is racist, not to get defensive about that, like, you normally would. And it's really easy to just get into that mindset of getting super defensive when somebody calls you out on being racist, right? But what we need to do is, instead of getting defensive, is to sit there and analyze, okay, what I said was racist. Why is that I said, why did I say that? How can I avoid this in the future? Really analyzing and examining yourself, because at the end of the day, if you're not actively fighting against racism, you're a part of the problem. Mm-hmm. Right. Absolutely. And if you're not actively fighting against racism, it's more than being, not a racist. You have to be anti-racist. You have to be fighting against racism. You have to be educating yourself. You have to be educating others. And I'm saying this to white people, like, you need to do your homework. You need to, be an advocate, do your homework and fight against racism. And, I mean, Amen. Anything you want to add to that? No, I know that was kind of a tangent.
I mean, we love tangents here. It just shows that, we're very passionate about what we talk about. So we love your tangents. I I think that you make all great points, and I don't think I really need to add anything outside of kind of, referring people back to our previous episodes and just saying, like, if you want to learn more about how you can really become a part of these communities and really do better as an individual, and not just be, what's the word? What's that phrase that people use? Like, performative activism. Like, if you really want to be something more than, this face value supporter, you have to, do your own research. And, we've been fortunate enough to have people on the podcast that we, have been able to speak with and learn more from. And I hope that, others have learned more from that, but you can always use that as a resource. But, one thing that Robert and I always like to say is, one thing that we've learned too is do not expect like the people who are going through these types of things or who are directly related to these types of issues to be your educators, because it's your responsibility to go out and educate yourself.
The oppressed are not the educators.
Amen. So I just think that's super important.
Yes.
And you said it well, honey.
Girl, it was a tangent, but y'all get the point.
He popped off and we loved it.
So yeah, I mean, happy Black History Month. I think everybody should take the time to, do a little research, pick something to learn about in terms of Black History Month. If you really want to read a great book, you can read Cast by Isabel Wilkerson. I've talked so much about this book. It's so fucking good. It really dives into America's problem with race and our caste system that we have. And it is so fucking good. It's definitely worth a read if you are trying to actively, work on becoming an anti-racist. So, yeah.
Okay. And I'm kind of shook, but I was just going to recommend HBO Max because they have a lot of wonderful Black History Month documentaries going on right now. I mean, they're always available, but, they're highlighted. I believe Netflix probably has a section for that. Hulu probably as well. We're starting to see.
They've all got it.
I was going to say, we're starting to see these platforms become more woke, and hopefully they're hiring more people in their organizations that represent these cultures and are actually, like implementing kind of like content that relates to it, not just like a documentary made by a white man talking about Black people. You know what I mean? Or like, because it's from that perspective, it's kind of like hard to, not that I'm saying that it's impossible, but I feel like if you truly want to learn about experiences, and we should be offering these experiences and these opportunities to like Black directors, Black writers, and all these other people who, not just Black, but like people of color and Indigenous people like to tell their stories. So now we're seeing a lot of that on there. And I do really recommend, I'm probably going to get into one of the documentaries tonight. I think there might be one about Henrietta. I was seeing that. I don't know. There's something about the immortal life of Henrietta. Oh my God, Oprah's in this.
Oh, I'm gonna have to watch that.
We know we love Oprah here.
We stan Oprah. We're actually going to interview her next week. So
you take a walkthrough of Harpo Studios, formerly known as. Robert will be flying up to Chicago, and we're going to sit down with Gail and Oprah, and we're going to talk about all things badass Black women. And that'll be the wrap up for February. Just a casual wrap up.
What a way to wrap up February. Well, you guys can check us out.
Oprah says? She says, if you manifest... Oh, sorry to interrupt.
No, go on. No, you're okay.
I was like, you know what Oprah always says? She says, if you manifest things, if you continue to say, like, speak them into existence, they will happen. So Oprah, Gail, we love you. Come on our show. We want you on our show.
We need you on our show. Mm-hmm. Or we would be glad to have you interview us.
Honored. Oh, us. I'm not worthy. I'm not worthy of like airtime in that way.
I'm worthy. We could talk. We could dive deep.
Of course, you're a Gemini. Worthy. I'm ready.
I'm worthy. I'm ready.
What do we always say? You ain't got to get ready if you stay ready.
I'm ready. I stay ready for Oprah.
That's right. All right, Robert, lead us out.
Well, everybody, if you want to learn more about us or just follow us, you can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter. And then, of course, check us out on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, YouTube, Spotify, and any other streaming platforms. Make sure that if you're listening to us on Apple, that you rate us, give us that 5-star rating that we love. And, merchandise will be coming out very, very, very soon. So check it out.
Really excited about our merch because we've been working really hard and we're really excited.
It's going to be so cute. So, all right.
Thank you for listening. Reach out to us if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, or if you want to talk to us about your, favorite inspirational Black women, Black men in history. We want to hear about it. I want to learn more. Let's have a good conversation.
Yes. Message us. School us. Teach us.
Yes.
Please. Please.
Yes, honey.
All right. Bye.
Bye.